Welcome everyone to today's meeting. My name is Abhiram and I'm here on behalf of Coastline Toastmasters, Sergeant at Arms. To officially start the meeting, I want to note that this meeting is recorded and shared amongst member for study and self-creation. Some parts may also be used for promotional materials later. In order to have a smooth meeting, here are some ground rules. Please put yourself on mute while not speaking. Do not interrupt while someone is speaking. Be attentive throughout the meeting and support the speakers with your warm smiles and claps. And apart from these rules, we also have other three ground rules. That is, as Toastmasters, we do not talk about sex, religion, and politics. So please refrain from discussing these topics. On this note, let's have a great meeting. Now, please welcome our club president and presiding officer, Toastmaster Mamata.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Abhiram, for that warm welcome. I, as the president of Coastline Toastmasters, warmly welcome all of you for yet another meeting this evening. As you all know, we have moved our meetings to once in 2 weeks. So the distance is far now, but I'm sure all of you look forward to these meetings as much as I do. Today, we have a very special session. It's not going to be like any of our regular sessions. While in our regular sessions, we have members preparing and coming and delivering the speeches. Today, we're going to sit back, but not just sit back and relax. Sit back and take back some learning that you would get to apply. Now, I'm not going to reveal what our speaker is going to talk about, since the host is going to give some introduction on it. But what I'd like to challenge all of you to do is to have some takeaways from this particular session and start applying them, not just when you are delivering a speech, but I am sure we're all professionals over here. It is going to come in very handy with the kind of experiences and knowledge that our guest today is going to share with us. Now, without further ado, I know all of you must be excited to hear. And after seeing Aditya's profile on LinkedIn, I am equally excited to know what Aditya is going to share with all of us. So let me call upon the host for today, Toastmaster Anuradha, a very dear friend and a colleague at Wipro, who is always ready to take on the roles when asked. And today she is all charged to let us know what's in store for us for the evening. So Anu,
thank you very much, Mamata. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and dear guests. Today, we are here to learn some tips how to reduce our anxiety while we are speaking in public. First of all, can anyone tell what is public speaking? In general, we all will speak daily with our family members, with our friends, with our colleagues. Without speaking, we can't communicate with each other. Then what is exactly the public speaking is? Can anyone tell?
Yeah, speaking among different audience or speaking among a group of people. That's what public speaking is.
Yes. In general, public speaking means speaking in front of a group of unknown people or known people. Okay. What makes difference when we are speaking with friends and when we are speaking with public? Can you tell that?
Friends, they already know you and they know how you speak. They somehow have aligned their thought to understand, but new people, they do not know you and it all falls on you to make them understand. So that's the difference.
The first question when we think to speak with any unknown person is what they think about us. That is the first question arises in our mind. If we after that thought, so many questions comes, but first question is what they'll think about us. Okay. Sometimes even we can't speak with our family members, in front of our family members also. That is the same question arises, what they will think. Okay. Now, in our native language itself, we can't able to speak in front of new members or group of new members. If you want to speak in public with some which is not our native language, I mean to say English, how many questions arises? Can you tell few questions? If you want to speak in non-native language in front of group of people, how many questions arises? Can you give some few examples?
You mean in non-native language?
Non-native language, yes. Suppose in English, okay, you want to speak something in front of a group in English. Then what questions we generally get?
Yeah, I mean, of course, when you're speaking in non-native tongue, it's always easier because you resonate with them. Probably they speak at the same level, but might struggle when it comes to English.
Yeah, first question arises is, we don't know the language much. We may speak wrong words. We are not confident in language. We are not confident in grammar. We don't know anything. If we speak in front of them, we may become fool. That question in generally we all will get. So now we are okay. Now we are here. Today we have one coach here who is going to teach us how can we reduce anxiety. Anxiety is nothing but if number of questions increases in our mind, that becomes anxiety. Like I believe that if we are anxious, we'll forget 1 plus 1 equal to 2 also. Forget about the speaking, forget about language, forget about anything. Normally 1 plus 1 equal to 2 also we will forget. So here we have Aditya who can help us to reduce to our anxiety while we are speaking, not only with in public speaking, but also in front of some new person. I can say that one. Okay, let me give some introduction about Aditya. Aditya Guti is from Madhipalam, Visakhapatnam. Currently, he is based out of USA. He is communication and leadership coach. He is a international winner in speaking. Okay, he is by trade. He is what do you say? He is an engineer by trade who has a tech leader for companies like Verizon and eBay. He has one ability. That ability he could able to blend with the technical, which is nothing but the leadership qualities, and that blending the technical skills with leadership qualities make him a better person in speaking. So, and one more is, he is a ICF certified professional and he has helped over 100 plus members who are the tech leaders who helped over, who can be able to gain confidentially and able to speak in front of public and become a public speakers. His mission, everything is having a mission. His main mission is to help techies or tech professionals to increase their communication and leadership skills. Let's welcome our coach for today, Aditya Guti. Give a clap to them.
All right. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Anu. What you said about anxiety is so right? When especially speaking a different language, which is not a native language. So that's why I made a decision, Anu. నా యాంగ్జైటీని తగ్గించుకోవడానికి ఈరోజు తెలుగులో వచ్చాను వర్క్షాప్. I wish I could do that, but my script has already been written in English. So on the fly convert, custom. So for now, I'll proceed in English, but you're right. It's even more difficult, even more challenging for us to do it in English because that's not even our native language. So let's get started. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you for those of you who have turned your cameras on. If I think there will be a lot more engagement if you can turn the cameras on. This is intended to be a very interactive session. That's how I designed it. So I would encourage you to participate. The more you participate, the more you will get out of it. So with that, let's get started with some intros. I love that this is a small group, so we can get a lot out of each person. Like Anu said, I'm originally from, I was raised in Madilpalam, Visakhapatnam, went to Vishaka Valley School and then Vikas College and then Geetham University and then for my undergrad before coming to the US. So would love to hear where in Andhra or Telangana you are from. If you want to type it in the chat, would love to hear.
I'm your neighbor from Vizag, actually, Aditya. I was born and raised in MVP Colony.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, studied in St. Joseph's and MVP Public School and then St. Joseph's and then moved to Hyderabad for work and went back and came back again. So Hyderabad now, but yeah, the moment I heard Madilpalam, I'm like, yay, next door neighbor.
Perfect. That's great. MVP Colony. West Godavari, Eluru, Vizag, Lochin. If you any one of you want to unmute, feel free to do that as well. Sitampeta. Perfect. It's also very close.
I also stay in MVP Colony. Funny thing to say. I currently stay in MVP.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Ramagundam, Telangana. Hello, Abhiram. It's awesome. Akit is from Sitampeta. Satya is from West Godavari. Anu is from Guntur. Awesome. Thank you guys for Rajmundry. Preeti is from Rajmundry. I studied in Rajmundry for about 4 years. My father got transferred, so I was in Rajmundry for 4 years. Awesome. With that, let's get started. I want to hear from you again. Like I said, this is going to be a very interactive question. I'll be asking you a lot of questions. So if you're not up for questions, this is not the session for you. You're better off watching RRR on Netflix. So, but if you wanted to be a part of interactive session, this is going to be a blast. Would love to hear how many speeches you have done so far in Toastmasters. Type it in the chat window, how many speeches you have done so far. Anu did 2. Abhiram 3.
I've completed 2 levels. Third level is almost getting done.
I'm not surprised. And how many speeches would that be a month approximately?
Each level would be 3 to 4, depending on the pathways, right? So I think I've done 8 for now. One, the next in my pathway is a different one. It's not a speech. So we have to do podcast now.
I did Toastmasters approximately 10 years. I started doing Toastmasters 10 years ago. So it was pretty old school. We did not have these levels. It was competitor, communicator, straight 10.
Exactly.
So it was a different model. So much older.
I was there when it was an older version. Then I completed a few levels, then took a break of 7 years and came back. So again, started all the levels in a new version.
Makes perfect sense. So 3 levels. So those of you 3 levels in progress. Akib also, I think he did multiple levels. That's awesome. So Mamata and Akib, those of you have done more than 8 speeches or close to 10 speeches. What is the difference? What have you gained from your Toastmasters experience before and after? Anyone who has done more than 5 speeches?
Many things. levels pushed us to write speeches. Initially, like just the fear of knowing that I have to give a speech and trying to find a story was very difficult. My first speech, Icebreaker, took 2 weeks for me to find out stories here and there, put it together, and a lot of back and forth communication with mentor. So as I grew and started giving more speeches, those communications were reduced. Now, if I have to give a speech, it will be mostly two rounds of mentoring. At the same time, getting stories is little difficult, a little easy. Like I'm able to build the stories to make speech. That is one difference. And of course, professionally, I've grown. I've learned how to present it better. I have learned how to showcase my work. So that is outside of Toastmasters.
So two things you mentioned. Creating stories became easier. You're able to talk about your work more. Anything else, Akib?
Not about levels, but impromptness. Because of table topic, it kind of became very easy to get into interviews or talk about any general topic, at least for 2 minutes, which was quite difficult earlier.
Great. Anyone else who wants to share? Mamta.
Yeah, so I'll go next. The first thing that I have improved after, venturing into Toastmasters is structure. I can talk a lot. Yeah, I also preach in the church. So it's easy for me to speak in front of people, but I don't know where to stop. That has always been a challenge for me. And in Toastmasters, since it's all structured speeches, there's a time limit. I hated the timer. I have never played the timer role for about 2 years because I hated that role so much. But I think that kind of was a leveler for me. A lot of improvement I see in myself from the way I could make my speeches more structured, make it more coherent as well, because those two go hand in hand. And the third thing is, of course, apart from the speeches, the networking element that is there in Toastmasters. I have personally learned a lot from other speakers. While I was somebody who follows TEDx and participates in TED Talks as well, but being able to observe how other people, utilize some of the facets of speaking amused me a lot, and I have a lot of learning, a lot of takeaways from there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mamta and Akib, for sharing. Those are all great answers. One of the additional things that I hear often people say that they gain from Toastmasters is confidence. Right? If before doing the speech, some of the thoughts I had was, who's ever going to listen to me? How can I ever speak in front of people? Even my friends laugh at me if I speak in front of them, let alone speaking in front of like a group of strangers. People are not gonna laugh. One of the things that shifted for me after doing 10 speeches is, holy moly, people are not laughing at me. In fact, people selected me as best speaker thing in the Toastmasters Club. That means people love me. Wow, I can also speak. So that is also something that shifts as you do more speeches, that you actually belong on the stage. Wondering if that is something also that happened to those of you who have done speeches. Lochan says yes, and Akib is nodding his head too. So if you dig a little deeper what that means, right? What we have gained through Toastmasters journey, besides many things, right? Like Mamta and Akib shared, you've learned how to network, you learn how to talk about your work, you've learned how to speak impromptuously, and so on. Outside of all these things, one of the other components we've all gained is confidence. And if we break down what confidence is, it means our thoughts got rewired. Before the Toastmasters journey, most of us are thinking we're never going to be able to speak. And after the Toastmasters journey, our thoughts got rewired, which is saying that I'm able to speak. So confidence, the way we are defining confidence here is being able to rewire our thoughts is confidence. So if that resonates with you, one of the challenges with Toastmasters is, and you might have seen this happen. You might have asked, if one of your colleagues tells you, hey, I want to improve my public speaking skills. I want to be able to improve my communication skills there. And you tell them, do join Toastmasters. And you tell them several times, and years pass, they don't join Toastmasters. Have you ever experienced that, anyone? Like Mamta says yes. They don't join Toastmasters. But they want to improve communication skills, but they still don't want to join. And that is a very common experience because it is scary to go to Toastmasters and speak in front of people. What if should I just be giving a speech? Do I have to introduce myself in the first meeting? These are all the questions that people ask because they're afraid to speak. And many people, so that's one challenge, that many people think about it, but they never join Toastmasters. The second challenge is people join Toastmasters and they want to quit. I wanted to quit so badly after my first two speeches. Anyone had that experience of wanting to quit after the first few speeches? Abhiram says yes, Anu says yes. I see some smiles on people's faces. Satya, Mamata, Riti are all smiling. So people want to quit because we were like, oh my God, I suck. Look at all these awesome speakers like Mamata and Akib. They do amazing. I can't speak. We compare ourselves to other people and we tell ourselves. And many of us quit. I mean, the fact that you're here means that you overcome that. So if we dig a little deeper into what is really happening at the root, right? What is happening behind the scenes is we are telling ourselves that we are not good enough. We all told that to ourselves before doing the speech, but we continue to take actions and move forward. And that's why we are all here after several speeches, right? But the challenge is most people, unfortunately, never rewire their thoughts. They stay where they are, which is why they never show up to Toastmasters. And that's why that's what makes confidence critically important. Although we don't pay attention to it, it automatically happens behind the scenes. But the thing that is running our Toastmasters game is entirely purely confidence. So if that makes sense to you, the goal of today's session is to help us rewire those thoughts. What if, yes, pushing through these thoughts, although we are doing it automatically, although you all have done it automatically, you pushed through these disempowering thoughts and you showed up to Toastmasters, you delivered speeches, even though you thought they weren't great. Even though you wanted to quit, you didn't quit. You still showed up and done those speeches. But it was a difficult journey and most of us wanted to quit and many of the other people wanted to quit, already quit, right? So what if there is another way to be able to revive those thoughts? So that's exactly what the goal of this session is how can we rewire those thoughts? So we are looking at the deeper thing that runs the game. Okay. So which is the goal of this session is mastering your inner world. Mastering the inner world of public speaking is our abilities being able to rewire our thoughts. So I've been coaching tech professionals and tech leaders for the past 4 years, and I've seen what works for different people. And based on that experience, I put together this confidence framework on how we can rewire our thoughts. And that's exactly what I'm going to present in our session today. So before I jump into what confidence framework is and the different things involved, I would like you to take a moment to think about an area of your life that can use a little bit of confidence. Because let's face it, in order for us to overcome our challenges, our confidence issues in public speaking, we have Toastmasters. It provides a very safe space for all of us to practice. However, in many other areas of our life, we don't have Toastmasters, unfortunately. Whether it is being able to ask for a promotion, whether it is wanting to speak up in a team meeting, whether it is wanting to start your own business, whether it is asking for a pay rise, we don't have Toastmasters in those fields. So, or it is probably asking your spouse to clean dishes. Okay. So in many areas of our life, we don't have Toastmasters. So think about an area of your life. Even it could be within Toastmasters. Maybe it's giving your next speech. Right? Think about an area where you can use some confidence. Right? So that's the first step. I'll give you a minute to think about it. If you want to write it on a piece of paper or on a notepad, feel free to do so. Avinash and Govind, good to see you guys on camera. So anyone wants to share it in what if something came up for you, if you want to share it in the chat window. Or if you want to unmute your microphone and speak, because this is Toastmasters, we all want to speak. Again, I'm repeating the question again. What's an area of your life that can use a little bit of confidence? Whether that is your next speech, whether that is asking your boss promotion or pay rise, whether that is maybe if you're unmarried, asking a girl or a boy to date, whatever that is. Or maybe you want to do the next speech and you want to kill it. Maybe that doing the next speech is your goal. So Lochan says this is the first speech. Perfect, Govind. I love it. Thank you for sharing. Doing the next speech, Abhiram. Perfect. My favorite goal is Govind's goal. So now that you have a goal written, what is possible? I mean, just what is possible for you if you can use that confidence, right? Maybe Govind is going to date the most prettiest girl that he always wanted to date. Maybe Abhiram will kill his next speech, right? He's going to show up as this confident self on the camera, and he's going to, he's going to make a great impression. Akif says, stop talking to girl's daughter with confidence. Girl's daughter. Girl's daughter. Girl's daughter. I don't get that. Girl's dad is an issue. Okay, I see. I see that. That makes total sense. Thank you for sharing that, Akif. That's the next goal, right? Hey, so these are all the possibilities that can happen, right? You can effectively execute all these tasks. So with that said, let's jump into the confidence framework. So the first step in this confidence framework is to understand that the real challenge is something internal. whether it is Govind sorry, Govind, I'm going to pick on you. Right? Whether it is Govind wanting to ask a girl on a date, it is about, it's not about the external thing, it's about the internal thing. Maybe you want to ask for a promotion. Many times, the first thing that comes to our mind is, right, I can't ask for this promotion because my boss is going to say no. I can't ask this for a promotion because I'm not ready yet. I need to have this extra certification. I don't have an MBA yet. I did not work as effectively in my current role. I need to impress my job more before I can ask for a promotion. These are all the initial thoughts that we have. Even when it comes to Toastmasters, right? The first time we want to join Toastmasters and deliver a speech, the initial thoughts we have is something external. External thoughts like, I don't speak good English, my grammar is not great enough, my vocabulary is not great enough, I can't construct sentences, people are going to laugh at me. Everything is based on how others will perceive of us. Like Anu mentioned, right? Anu mentioned in her introduction, we are worried about what others will think of us. So the first step, I mean, you might be actually right in some of the cases that maybe you need an MBA, that you may need, to prove yourself. But in majority of the cases that, in 90% of the cases, if we actually dig deeper, it is not true. So the first step is to understand that the real challenge is something internal and not an external thing. It's the same thing when it comes to asking a person on a date. We might think that, oh, I need to look in a certain way. I need to speak in a certain way. I need to, wear certain kind of clothes. We often get stuck on something external. But the first step is to realize that it is something internal. So because the challenge with basing our thoughts with contributing our challenges to external circumstances is, you can get that MBA. You might prove yourself. You might, take grammar courses, writing courses to learn the perfect English. But the challenge is, all of these things are going to take forever. And in spite of doing all of these things, the list keeps growing. You can always do that next thing. So it is a never-ending process. So that's the main challenge with attributing our circumstances to something external. So instead, it's about, the first step is to understand is that something internal. This is also the reason why it takes many of us, including myself, right? I spent many years thinking about joining Toastmasters. I never joined. It is a very time-intensive process if I'm always wanting to, improve my perfect English and so on. So the first step is to consider that with whatever the goal you have just written down, whether it is getting to the next, asking for the next promotion, doing the next speech, the first thing I want to do is to be able to reframe my thoughts. So with that, the next step in the framework is to understand what those thoughts are. Like, really understand what am I telling myself at the deeper level. If I'm telling myself a promotion, I need an MBA, what I'm really telling myself is I'm not good enough right now. So understand what those thoughts are. Let me give you an example, another example. We spoke about Toastmasters example, what we were all thinking before joining Toastmasters and after joining Toastmasters. I'll give you another example from professional career. So when I was 26 years old, I wanted to get ahead in my career, right? So I wanted to impress my boss. I once saw an executive.
Is clear.
Yes, it is clear. Ram, if you don't mind muting your phone. So, as a 26 years old, I wanted to get ahead in my career. So I went to when I saw an executive in a break room, I said, "Hello, Mr. Tony. Can I take you out for lunch? I wanted to ask you how to go above and beyond my job so I can contribute to the company's growth." The Tony looked at me and said, "That is a question you should be asking to your manager, mate. I don't have time for this." But the first time, it took me a lot of courage to be able to speak to an executive and ask him out for a lunch. And he yelled at me that I shouldn't be speaking to him. I already have my thoughts at that time that I'm not good enough to speak to him, that I don't have the business knowledge to speak to him. And when he yelled at me, what internally happened is that all of those became true. Damn, I told you I shouldn't have spoken to him. Someone else told me this is a bad idea, but I still went ahead and did it. Look what happened. Now I'm gonna get fired. So I went into a deep rut. Right? I went into my own deep rut that this is, my life is over, basically. So I went back to my desk. Never ever decided to go back to speak to my executives. So I decided to put my head down and spend the rest of my career not asking any questions, right? Because I can't do that yet. I need to get an MBA. I need to do this and blah blah blah. So I want to pause here and ask you if you resonate with any of these, any experiences that you wanted to share. Abhiram was like, Abhiram, if you want to share your experience, anything that comes to you.
I mean, I don't remember properly, but the thought process, what you have said, kind of resonated with me. Whenever something does not go in favor of myself, I feel the same thing. Maybe I should have done something more than rather than getting these type of experiences from people.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a very common thing, right? This is exactly what happens when some of our speeches don't go well in Toastmasters, that all these thoughts become real. And the challenge with that is we believe in those thoughts. We believe that at that time it made it, I worked so hard for an MBA, man, after that, because I was like, because I told you I need an MBA. Right. So I worked so hard for an MBA. I never could pass, crack the GMAT exam. I was just, but we spend a lot of time trying to satisfy those initial thoughts that we have. Maybe it is for us, if it is doing the Toastmaster speech, it is spending excessive amount of time on trying to master the language of English, when probably English is not the bottleneck. It is just having this confidence to say whatever you want to say. Even Sundar Pichai doesn't speak perfect English. If you notice, he doesn't speak perfect English. What he does do is he speaks it English in slow enough that everyone can understand. He articulates every word so well. He uses plain, simple, basic English. But he articulates, enunciates every word so well that everyone across the world can understand. He still has Indian accent. He still uses very basic words. Right? So the point of that is many times we make up stories by believing these initial thoughts, and so spend an enormous amount of time trying to satisfy those initial thoughts when we can never satisfy those. Believe that I'm not good enough. No matter whether you speak the perfect English, whether you speak the perfect pronunciation, whether you speak the perfect vocabulary, it will never be enough. Right? So, so the second step in this framework is to understand what those deeper thoughts are. The deeper thoughts are in that scenario as is 26 years old. If I understood that, hey, the deeper thoughts are I'm telling myself that I'm not good enough, and to do this, it gives me an opportunity to challenge those thoughts if I understand what those thoughts are. Because if I don't even understand what those deeper thoughts are, there is no way I can address them. I will keep trying to satisfy the outer thoughts. So I want to, again, just pause and give you a moment to think about, since you have written a goal for your mind, a goal that you have, whether it is doing your next speech, or whether it is asking a girl on a date, whether it is asking for a promotion, whatever that next goal is, identify the external thoughts and also the internal thoughts that we are telling ourselves, the internal deeper thoughts. So I'll just pause for a minute, moment of silence. So it gives you an opportunity to reflect on what those deeper thoughts are. And if anyone wants to share it in the chat window, or if you want to share it in front of by unmuting your microphone, we'd love to hear them. Love that, Abhiram. It's external is no time or time management. Internal is procrastination. If I can't give my best, it's no use. That's powerful, Abhiram. It's something to do with perfection. It's something to do with perfection. That's a very common scenario that I see in many of the tech leaders, tech professionals, and coaches. If we don't do our best work, we don't want to do it. Because again, if we go a little deeper, this might be different for you, but if we go a little deeper, it is feeling like we are not good enough unless we do the best work. So there is something about that. So the challenge with that, Abhiram, again, this might not be applicable to you. I'm giving a very generic scenario based on my experience coaching other tech professionals and tech leaders, is that the challenge with this approach, Abhiram, is that it takes a long time typically to accomplish things. You're great at what you do. You're probably, the advantages of it. The advantages are that if you're great at what you do, you're probably one of the best. If you put 100 people in the room, if someone with a perfectionist attitude, they'll probably do their best work. But the challenge also is if you're doing something different, it might take a long time because we are not perfect at this new thing we are doing. So we tend to procrastinate for the fear of not looking good. So it is much harder to get started on new projects that we want to work on. I don't know if that resonates, Abhiram. So that is 100% accurate. Satya says external is prioritizing our schedule. I love that. That's a great wording, Satya. Internal is scheduling our priorities. Yeah. What is more important to us? What does our soul want, right? What is that we are passionate about versus prioritizing our schedule? Karthik says external is so many tasks to do. Internal is I don't know how to manage time. Yeah. That is accurate. Again, Karthik, if you go a little deeper into that internal thought, again, internal is more about going several layers deep, right? And this is exactly what we typically do in some of the coaching sessions with our clients, to understand what is the deeper thought. So many tasks to do, and typically in that scenario, if we go several level deeps into that internal thing, it is mostly about prioritizing others, right? If there are so many things to do, it's maybe not prioritizing what we really need for ourselves, for us to feel happier and joyful and passionate. Maybe because we want to help a lot of other people. So there could be a lot of other tasks, but they're not necessarily prioritizing our time to accomplish our goals. And that is typically what comes up in conversations like these, is how do we prioritize our needs first? I don't know if that makes sense to you, Karthik. So yeah, internal is all about going deeper into what is the deeper level reason. It's like a root cause analysis. If any one of you are in tech, right? Unless we understand the root cause of an issue, we can never solve an issue. It's the same thing with internal as well, right? And unless we understand what is going on internally deeply within ourselves, it's hard to address it, because we are probably putting a patch for some issue. You're welcome, Karthik. And Akib says, how to align passion with profession. Internal is to get better at what I do, manage thoughts, effective, perfect acting. That's 100% accurate. And if you are, to Akib's point, if we become great at understanding our own values, understanding our own strengths, then it's easier to prioritize the outer things, because we go after what is most important to us. I believe that's what Akib is saying. That is 100% accurate. Beautiful. So let's move on. I think it seems like you get the importance of like going deeper to understand that root thought that is holding back. Because once you understand that, now it's like root cause analysis in tech, right? If you don't, even Einstein said, if he has 60 minutes to solve a problem, he spends 5 minutes understanding the problem and 5 minutes to actually solve it. Because once you know what is the challenge, then it's easier to overcome it. Otherwise, we are taking actions. Otherwise, if we don't understand the deeper root thing, we are taking actions to address something else that is not important. Whether that is getting an MBA, which might not be important for you to speak to an executive, and so on. Right. So once you understand the deeper thoughts and understand the impact it is having, the impact is, if you notice the impact these thoughts have, initially in my career, as a 26 years old, it kept, I did not speak to any executive for 6 years. So I stayed at my, in my own comfort zone for many years, because I was afraid to speak. In Toastmasters, the way it plays out is, if we believe in these initial thoughts, we might never decide to do a speech, because we are like, what if I mess it up? What if I forget things in my speech and I don't deliver it? So we never do speeches. So understanding, and that is the impact. So understanding the deeper thought is that if the deeper thoughts, like I'm feeling that I might not look good enough, then it gives us an opportunity to challenge that thought, to understand, is that really true, right? So the third, that's the second step. So just to recap what we have discovered so far in the conference framework, the number one step is to understand that it is something internal and not believe in the first thought that comes to our mind. That's the first step. The second step in the framework is to understand that what are the root thoughts that are really blocking us from taking that action and its impact. So it gives us a way to challenge those root thoughts. The third step in the framework is acceptance. What does that mean? This is the most groundbreaking step out of all 3 steps, which will actually helps us get us to the next level. And this is something Toastmasters excels at. So I'll tell you what acceptance means. So when somebody speaks up in a team meeting, if they don't have Toastmasters support, you speak up in a team meeting, you deliver a 5-minute presentation or something in a team meeting. People are like, all right, they might not say anything. Probably the next presenter just presents outside of Toastmasters. But within Toastmasters, when you do your first speech, it doesn't matter if you spoke like Tony Robbins or if you completely messed it up. It doesn't matter. People are still going to applaud for you. It doesn't matter how good of a job that you have done, still people are going to still applaud for you. What they're telling you by that is, we love you no matter what, because this is the first time you have tried. So it's great that you have tried, and we sincerely applaud them because we know what it takes for people to speak up in front of a group of people. We are accepting them for who they are. It doesn't matter how well they have done the speech. We love them just because they spoke and they overcome their own personal barriers. So that's the most groundbreaking step that Toastmasters offer, which you can't find anywhere else. Right? You do the same speech at your work, no one cares. No one is going to say anything, right? But at Toastmasters, you get recognized for it. And what it does is, that is exactly what helps us do the second speech. Right? All the awesome comments we get, all the people give us very kind feedback. That is exactly what helps us do the second speech. Again, we're going deeper into this session, right? What does that mean? That's an outer action, but that is internally challenging our core thoughts. If the core thoughts are, I'm telling myself I'm not good enough to do a speech, if people are going to laugh at me, by getting that acceptance from other people, we're like, well, actually, those internal thoughts are not true, and I'm actually good enough to do these speeches. So it's reframing our thoughts. So this is the same acceptance we can take and use in other areas of our life, whether that is asking for the next promotion. Many times when I coach clients, one of the things that they bring up to me is they're probably in a job transition. Anyone here is in a job transition, they're asking for, you're probably in a new role. It feels challenging. Seems like no. But if someone is in a job transition, whether you're newly promoted manager, or maybe it's a new industry, there can be a lot of anxiety in that new role. So many times, the tech professionals and tech leaders come to me and like, Aditi, I'm not, it's giving me a lot of anxiety. I'm not able to take any actions in this new role. How do I do it, right? It's by acceptance. If you're in a new role, you're not going to be a star player on day one. People are not going to, of course, applaud you. They don't, unfortunately, have Toastmasters to say, hey, you showed up today. Let's give you a round of applause. No one is going to do that. That is something we have to do within ourselves. Whether it's a new industry that you're exploring, maybe you're starting a new business, maybe it's asking for a new promotion, whatever that is. It is accepting that you might not be applauded for taking an action, even though it takes a lot of courage to do it. You're not going to get an external applaud. So within yourself, it's about accepting within yourself that I'm going to mess up, and that is normal, and accepting that. If we can accept that, if you're planning to do the next speech. It is accepting that, maybe it's okay if I forget things. It's okay if I completely blank out. It's okay if I stutter. It's okay if I forget half of my speech. Because by practicing acceptance within ourselves, it helps us do the next thing more easily. Because otherwise we get hung up on trying to do it perfectly. So acceptance is another groundbreaking steps that we can implement. Again, I want to pause right here in this third step, and one of the most significant steps is, what is that you need to be able to accept about yourself that helps you take that next small action towards the goal you have written? Now, that's a pretty long question. So let me repeat that again. Okay. What you have written a goal already. So far you have written a goal that you wanted to accomplish, whether that is your next speech or whether that is your next asking for a promotion. And you've also identified what is the core part that's getting in the way. So in the acceptance phase, it is about, what are you accepting? What do you need to accept about yourself that, that's a long question. All right, let me try that again. What do you need to accept about yourself that helps you take the next action towards the goal you have created? What is that you need to accept about yourself that helps you take the next small action towards the goal you have created? Take a moment to reflect on this, because this will be the most groundbreaking step. Love that, Anu. That's exactly right. Yes, it's okay if you're rejected. People might not respond to you positively the first time. It's okay that if your manager says no for a pay rise. It's okay if the idea that you thought is a world-changing idea gets rejected. It is a very natural scenario. You just keep moving on to the next person, right? Just like how we do it in Toastmasters. We might mess up the speech first time. People applaud us anyway. That enables us to do the next speech. We don't stop. We keep taking actions. We don't stop after first speech. You keep going for the second speech and then the third speech. Jaya says, accept our flaws, and yeah, exactly. Keep going to achieve what I aim to. Abhiram says, my thought process is wrong and should rethink to myself ahead. I'm just trying to process that. Yeah, that I need to just rethink. That's the key, Abhiram. That makes total sense. Lojan says, accepting that I'm not perfect. Perfect, exactly. Akib says, accepting existing capabilities. Yes, if you're new to the job, accepting that, yeah, I don't have certain skill set. It's going to take time, and that's okay. Taking feedback, exactly. Ask for feedback. After you accept that there is some skill set that I need to learn, ask your peers for feedback. That's exactly what we get. They give 10 positive points, and in Toastmasters, they give mostly positive points in one area or 3 areas for improvement, so we can incrementally work on it, right? Satya says, to understand the basic logic that no one achieved anything without a worthwhile failing at least a lot of times. Exactly. It took us 10 speeches or 8 speeches, 5 speeches to be able to master the structure of doing a talk. Right? But we kept going. We didn't stop because our first speech sucked. We kept doing the second speech. We accepted our failures, got some feedback, did the second speech, did the third speech. And that's how we have Mamata and Abhiram here doing their 3 levels of speeches. Narendra says, think about the worst thing that could happen. Often our fears are a little vague, and even the worst case scenario is not that exact. That's a brilliant point too. What is the worst case scenario? What is the worst case scenario if you mess up in the speech in Toastmasters? you're still going to be applauded. You're not going to be fired. You're still going to make your paycheck. Not the end of the world. Exactly. This is where that's a key point that Narendra mentioned. What he mentioned is challenging, or it challenges our core thoughts. When we question what's the worst case scenario, it challenges our core thoughts. And that is the thing that helps you get to the next level easier, right? Perfect. All right, so this is great response, everyone. Thank you for sharing that. It seems like, we're almost at the end of my time, so let me wrap this up. Karthik says, I learned another way how to not do it. Exactly, you learn another way how not to do it. So let me wrap this session up. So far we have discussed the conference framework. What its framework helps us to do is, firstly, it reduces the time to achieve success, right? We don't have to sit at our desk believing in these thoughts like I did for many years as a tech professional sitting at my desk. By practicing the principle of acceptance, after 6 years, after going through a coach training program, after experiencing coaching myself, after having these incredible insights, I still did not have an MBA. I still did not have a certification. I still was speaking the same way as I did. But because I've accepted this thing about myself, I kept reaching out to more executives. Yes, there are people like Tony who had rejected me, who kept rejecting me. But there are many more others who came into my life who supported me because I kept going. I kept asking. I didn't stop at one person. Just like you wouldn't stop doing speeches at Toastmasters, you keep going. That's exactly what I did. I networked with many executives. That's how I got promoted into different leadership roles, because there are few people, even though 5, maybe 10, 1 or 2 out of 10 people rejected me, there are many other people, 80% of the people loved my passion and energy, who ultimately I was able to network with and build the right relations that helped me get promoted and land the roles that I want, because not every role is a perfect fit for us. There are few roles that are perfect fit for us. There are few people that are going to love us. I'm sure even in this event today, there are few who might hate me as a speaker. There are few who might admire me as a speaker. And so that is a very natural thing to happen. So it's about finding our community, people who resonate with us. That is our goal. And that's the goal of this. And we of this entire conference framework is to, it helps us reduce the time we spend not taking actions. It helps us put in the action mode. As a result, there will be less anxiety and more fun in the process. We discussed specifically 3 steps in this conference framework. The step number 1 is to realize that what really happens is internal. The thought that's blocking us is something internal and not external. The second step we discussed is understanding what those core thoughts, digging deeper into ourselves, just like doing a root cause analysis. That's the second step. The third step in the framework is acceptance, accepting so that it helps us to take actions continuously, just like how we do in Toastmasters. Those are the 3 steps. One other thing I also wanted to offer is, if it is okay, I do have an online course that I have for free, that I want to offer for free because it's in a beta testing, and I want to get as much feedback as possible from people. Originally, I plan to, eventually launch it for $200 for the online course, but right now, since it is beta testing, I want to offer it for free so I can get as much feedback as possible. So, Mamta, is it okay if I share the details of the course? Awesome, thank you. I will. I unfortunately don't have the link right now, but if you're interested,
Govind, and we can circulate it in the group.
That's awesome. Yes, I will get in touch with Govind. But if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that is also another way. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Send me a connection request. That's another way I can send you that link. Again, I want to make it clear that it will be completely offered for free, mainly because I want to get some feedback. This is a beta version of the course. It goes into much detail about everything that we spoke about. It gives you specific examples, specific worksheet that helps you go through each of these steps in much greater detail so that you can do the work for yourself. So that's a wrap for today. Thank you again for your participation and for your incredible participation. And thank you for the opportunity to do this with you today.
Thank you very much, Aditya. We have a nice takeaway. We have many takeaways, but only one thing as I got it much. First thing is whenever we are having goal, we are having many enemies, like our thoughts. Our thoughts are our enemies. First of all, we have to answer to our thoughts. Many thoughts will become as a core thoughts. We have to give our acceptance to the core thoughts so that they will start accepting us as and help us to do the activities even though we fail, so that confidence will build up. That's it, my takeaway from this session. Thank you very much, Aditya.
That's a great wrap up, Anu. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Toastmasters and guests, if you have any questions to Aditya, you can continue.
Yeah, Aditya, I would like to ask a small question. Aligning our thoughts looks good, but what about the opportunities? Sometimes we find no opportunities even if we are 100% positive. And yeah.
Thank you for asking that question, Satya. So just to make sure I'm getting it right, so there are other opportunities. What do you mean by having opportunities?
For example, if I am looking for a job and I am trying to improve my skills on that, but I'm not getting any opportunities to start a job or something like that.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for sharing that. Right, it's another way to put it in Toastmaster world is in the initial phases, I was doing a lot of speeches, but no one seems to like it. Right, they're of course clapping, but no one is selecting me as a best speaker and so on. And how do you do that? Right, we can get disappointed easily if we don't get those opportunities, even though we keep applying for more jobs and so on. So again, it's the same thing. It's understanding that the internal thing is we already believe that we might at some point of time, at some level, believe that maybe I'm not qualified for that next role is something we might believe. By more rejection, that thought is getting louder. So noticing that and just challenging the thought and keep applying, because yes, unfortunately, that's a reality in many professions, is to get rejections. And if there's one takeaway from this is to keep applying for, get the feedback. Always get the feedback from people who tell you, maybe it's the resume, it's the qualification. Hey, what do you, again, many recruiters might not respond. So maybe if there is someone who can help to give you that feedback, get that feedback so you can keep improving, but never stop applying for that next role. Great question, Satya.
Yeah, that answered the question. Thank you so much, Aditya.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Aditya, for your wonderful answer. Anyone else having questions?
Anu, Kiran has raised his hand.
Yes,
Karthik.
Yes, Karthik, you can continue.
Yeah, this is a wonderful session. Really a lot more aha moments in this takeaways. Also, thank you for this. This is the first time I'm entering this Toastmaster.
Oh, you are. Wow, this must be a very heavy session for you. If this is your first time, but I'm glad you enjoyed it in spite of it.
Yes, really enjoyed a lot. I just want to know how this, what I mean, how it continues, and is this the right question to ask here, or I
Yeah,
don't
it is a great question. Maybe Mamata or someone else can take that question.
how the journey will be from here?
Yeah,
But
sure, Karthik. Karthik, since you'll stay on for some more time, I'll definitely take that question up as we progress. But do you have anything related to the topic that Aditya spoke about?
oh no, for now everything is good.
Everything is crystal clear. We can ask you questions then.
Yes. I'm
Yeah, I think there are others who want to ask questions to Aditya. So we will come back to your question definitely in some time. Yeah.
sure.
Thanks, Karthik.
Thank you, Karthik, for
Yes.
asking the
Thank you, Karthik. Akib is having one question, Aditya. Akib, you can continue.
Yeah. So the whole confidence building framework which we spoke, I start building confidence, it goes up. Sometimes I get overconfident, which results in certain failure. And then there is a pitfall. So I come down, I become very underconfident. Now I'm being very slow, trying to understand, and again building slowly and gradually going up to the same level. The question is how to remain stagnant when we're trying to build confidence, not to go over or under, but to have that flow in building the confidence.
Yeah, great question, Akib. So there are two things, right? You want to be steady instead of going up and down. Again, since yeah, I'm not asking you deep level questions. I can share with you what typically others experience, right? It might not necessarily apply to you, but a general thing that works for others, based on my experience coaching other clients, is it's a natural thing that once we achieve something, we might become overconfident, and it can drop again, and you have cycles. One of the things you can do is accepting that it's probably a common cycle that we all experience. There is going to be ups and downs during the downtime. When you're in the upward trajectory, maybe you don't have any concerns, right? Things are going great. When it is in the downward trajectory, that's when you want to go deeper into those thoughts and what you're telling yourself. Because it's inevitable that we all face those downward trajectories in our life. Up until 2021, stocks are going up, everyone is happy. Oh my God, everyone is making money, it's great. After it is going down, no one wants to speak about stocks anymore. They don't want to say how much loss they are. And unfortunately, that is part of the process, right? The challenge is many people sit there, right? Because they, whatever the thoughts that come to them, that I'm not good enough, that I'm a failure, whatever that comes from. And so the upward trajectory going back up becomes really challenging. So that's where challenging those thoughts and continuing to take the actions that you would have taken if you're in the upward trajectory, by accepting that this is part of the process, that I am in the downward trajectory, and it's okay that these times will pass, and accepting that phase in your life. That is what will help us get to the upward trajectory again. I don't know if that makes sense. Perfect. Okay. And Lochin has another question.
Yes, thank you, Javed. Lochin, can you continue with your question?
Yeah. Hi, Aditya. First of all, that was a lovely session. When you're talking about the first step of rewiring our thoughts, the first step, as you mentioned, was identifying our internal thoughts, more internal thing. What I want to ask is that this is from a personal thing. My brain is totally cluttered with all random thoughts. How do I get to the point of identifying what the problem is? Like identifying. So, what is the first step to approach how to identify the problem? If that makes sense.
Thank you for that question. It makes perfect sense. So if you don't mind sharing, like if you're okay sharing in public, is there any specific topic or thought you have in my mind, or challenge or goal you have in your mind when you ask that question?
Okay, I will share that. So think of it as a career growth prospect. Suppose I'm wanting to switch jobs or grow up into a better person so that I can get a high paying salary. My problem in identifying starts with I'm not good enough, I don't have the proper skills, I'm lazy, I procrastinate stuff. So these are all the thoughts I get. So how do I get to identify one and proceed with that? Like, this is my problem.
Great, thank you for giving that more specific example. That it gives me a lot more context to it, so I'm not answering some random question, right? So it makes total sense, and that is natural. One of the things we all say to ourselves, right? I think you already did. Your original question was, how do I identify those thoughts? I think you already identified those thoughts just now. Right? These are the thoughts that you're telling yourself. Because if you are focused on, the challenge happens if you believe in these thoughts. Right? If you believe in all these thoughts and you take actions believing in those thoughts, if you think of yourself as a procrastinator, you believe in those thoughts, you are not going to take action. Right? And so but if you accept that it is normal to feel that way, how many raise your hand if you transitioned into your new role and you felt you're not good enough? Anyone who transitioned into a new role and you felt you're not good enough? I at least did. Right? So that the point is, so I see heads nodding. Everyone feels that way, Lochan. It's a very common experience, right? We all feel that way. So it is accepting that it's normal to feel that way and taking that action anyways. Does that answer?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I think you answered your question. So your own question. So I just added on top of what you.
I mean, what my thing was that if I have so many random thoughts, so I can't identify, like, see if I'm a procrastinator, and my second thought is, yeah, I don't have the skills. Maybe that's the reason. So transitioning from one thought to the other does not make a sense to me. So if yeah, that's what I'm.
So what is that one thought?
Yes, what is that one?
What is that? How do I identify that one thought? So at a deeper level, there is, again, it typically takes a little more self-reflective time to identify what that deeper thought is. So I would just reflect, write it down, like take a moment wherever you want to go. If it's a nature place or wherever you want to go, just go and write down all your thoughts and see the deeper level thoughts is typically less about I'm a procrastinator, is a very surface level thought. The deeper level thought is typically more around I am not good enough. It's something about us and the adjective, right? So that's when you know, and the deeper, it's like a pyramid, right? The deeper level thought sits at the top of the pyramid. Out of that top level thought, typically all these other thoughts spun up. And the deeper level, if I'm saying I'm not good enough, you're also saying I'm a procrastinator, I don't have skills, I'm lazy, right? These are like a surface level thoughts. So that's how you typically identify that. That's a great question. It's definitely not easy. It's not something you might be able to do it in 45 minutes. The goal of this session is to at least give you some framework that helps you go back and continue to reflect, right? So yeah, I would encourage you to spend some time on that to identify that deeper level thought.
Sure, I will do it. Try to do that at least.
100%.
Thank you very much, Aditya. If you don't mind, can I add one point to your answer, Aditya?
Please.
Yeah, Lochan, in general, we say one thing. If we keep on doing one activity for 21 days, it becomes as a habit. After 21 days also, if we keep on doing, that becomes as a sanskar. So the same way, if you keep on thinking one thought for many days, that becomes as a grew inside you. So it takes more, it needs more acceptance, as Aditya tell, to rewiring. That's it from my side.
Thank you, Anu.
Okay. If anyone is having any questions, we can continue. Does anyone have any questions? No. Thank you very much from my side, Aditya, for your wonderful session. And we have many takeaways from the session. With this, I'm handovering the session to our presiding officer, Toastmaster Mamta. Toastmaster Mamta, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anu. And thank you so much, Aditya, for that wonderful session. At the beginning of the session, I did tell you we planned for table topics, but with the kind of responses we are receiving from people in terms of wanting to ask the questions, we had to call that off. But really nice that people have taken this opportunity to voice out some of the common challenges or concerns we often face when it comes to setting a habit. And if that habit is about speaking, definitely a challenge. So thank you so much, Aditya, for the nice takeaways that you have shared with us today. And we hope to see you again someday soon when we are all set for a contest season, probably. And then you'll probably see some of the confidence being demonstrated by us in action. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Thank you, Mom. I just wanted to quickly respond. Thank you for that acknowledgement. And I think everyone demonstrated great confidence already. Like with the kind of questions you asked, it's not easy to, ask questions on this topic, but you have taken the courage to ask questions. So thank you for this opportunity and the engagement. It's a pleasure hosting this session for you guys.
Thank you so much, Aditya, once again for patiently answering all our questions. I'm sure if anybody has any other questions, you can find Aditya on LinkedIn. And like he's mentioned, is okay to continue supporting. Please add him and you can ask your questions. And Aditya, do share the link as well for the course. And we will circulate it to the team members. Great. So with that, we come to an end of another meeting. Our table topics master has been considerate enough to push her agenda for the next meeting. Thanks for that, Toastmaster Padmini. And we really look forward to all of you joining us for our upcoming meetings as well. Our regular session comprises of speaking and table topic segment. Since we see a lot of guests today, a quick note on what's going to happen as a Toastmaster is once you enroll, there are multiple ways we run a Toastmasters meet. What you have witnessed today is an education session. We invite speakers from across different walks of life, across experiences to come and share some snippets with us, which can benefit. There's nothing great than learning from our own peers, people who've been there, done it, failed, and succeeded. And that is why we invite people such as Aditya, who has had varied experiences and loves to share it with others and ensure that others develop along the way as well. I have 2 kids, so you don't mind me doing all these dance gimmicks while I'm speaking. It's a Saturday, so I have to tolerate all of that. Great. So today, what you have witnessed is an educational session. Like that, we have a different combination of sessions that happen. A regular session will have speaking segment and table topic segment, where you will witness a lot of speeches which are timed by our timer, and you will get a report at the end of the meeting. So as a new Toastmasters, what you will experience is once you onboard on your journey, you will be assigned to a pathways, an online pathways journey, which your VP education will get you on board, assign a mentor for you to help you through your pathways journey. As you start with your pathways, you will specifically choose one of it to an assessment, of course, which will help you understand which one you need to focus more on, and you start your speaking journey. You've heard the speaking number count that we have all shared when Aditya asked the question, how many speeches you completed? So that was as part of our Pathways journey. So every once in 2 weeks we gather, and you can enroll for it. Once you enroll with it, we will definitely help you through the process. So that is about how your Toastmasters journey will be. Please join our guest group. We'll share the link on the chat. Join the WhatsApp group to receive continuous updates on what's happening within the club. And feel free to reach out to any of us. We'll be more than happy to share the required information for you. Any other questions that you have? Kartik, did that answer your question?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you so much once again for joining us this evening, all of you. Now I would hand over this session back to Sergeant at Arms to close the meeting. And please do not go away. We would love to capture your handsome and beautiful faces after we wrap up. Over to you, Toastmaster Abhiram.
Thank you everyone for coming to our meeting, and thank you Aditya for this wonderful session. Meeting host, please stop the recording.